Hey there, guys. This is going to be what passes as Gauntly episode 87. We've been in lockdown now for 3 months. Things are finally starting to open back up. You can go and get a haircut with appointment. You can head into most businesses with a mask on, but it still doesn't feel the same, as I'm sure you are aware, compared to how things were before. It's summertime now. Very different kind of summer than we usually experience. For most of us, at least. I don't know if it'll be that different from my usual summer, my usual state of affairs, and I'm going to tell you why. This is going to be an even more minimalist episode than the last two, which I produced in Zoom. You'll only be seeing and hearing from me. So this might be something of an echo chamber. You might experience my tunnel vision. But I'm going to explain why that is. Public access has long been known for being home to what you might call rants, screeds, political viewpoints, religious viewpoints, just very isolated talking heads who are not beholden to anyone. That is the wonder, I guess, the benefit of not having to rely on sponsors. This is maybe the purest bastion of the freedom of speech which still remains. Within certain guidelines, barring obscenity or calls to action or things like that, I'm free to pretty much say what I want on this platform, and that's something that Count Gauntly certainly cherishes. I don't know if I'm even Count Gauntly right now. I am here kind of to pull back the curtain. If not to rant, then to at least come clean, to confess and just be the truest embodiment of myself and the clearest amplifier of my voice and viewpoint that I can be. Because all the amendments are important, okay? And as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. This is me standing on my soapbox, giving my 2 cents, because right now it seems like the entire country is on its soapbox. It might not be becoming of me to air my dirty laundry, so to speak, but it seems like at the moment the entire nation's dirty laundry is on display to the rest of the world. Everybody is agitated and agitating. And it's not just that everybody's up on their soapbox, but a lot of people want to co-opt the soapboxes of others. I here on Count Gauntly have always striven to make my words my own, and as much as possible to make my thoughts my own. I think in the grand cosmic scheme of things, you're always going to find that anything you create, anything you put out into the world has been done before in some sense. It's always going to be derivative to a degree. But I try to be original when and where I can. This may sound funny, coming from someone whose program relies a lot on previously created media. I show movies that other people made. There is royalty-free music over the credits. I rely heavily on the contributions of others, and I think we all do. They say no man's an island, it takes a village. Everybody comes from somewhere. You're not where you are without a lot of people contributing to your life. And I think that's true of absolutely everybody. From king to peasant, rich to poor, all colors and creeds and everything else. Our current position in life is the result of actions we have taken, but also the things we have experienced around us. And I don't think it's too profound to say that. I think it's self-evident. There's some long-standing American words that you will recognize. I think what this episode is going to be is sort of a State of the Union. Mostly of the show itself, partly of the nation at large, and it may not be too pretty. It might get down and dirty. It's just going to air the dirty laundry, like I said. And so you might think of this as the prostate of the Union. Something that needs to be addressed, but that isn't too pretty, and we don't like examining all that often. So what prompted this minimalist approach to the 4th of July episode? Now, of course, our form was dictated in some sense by the lockdown. We have received word that the studio will be reopening shortly, but we don't have a date yet. I am expecting it will open up at some point in July, and maybe we can get out our August episode at that point. I will be giving you, in a few minutes, some details on upcoming Gauntly projects. But, as you know, COVID still walks the land. Things are still on lockdown. We can't go everywhere and do everything we might want. July also, in the last couple years, has tended to be a moment of downtime for Gauntly. And this is largely because in June, I do my episode collaborations with the new media department from the visiting college. We see Professor Cosmos often in the June episodes. And those shows usually require me to pull together a lot of different elements. People from various places. I try to make those good episodes. There's a couple reasons for this. I want to try to seem impressive to my old teacher and to the young people coming up through the ranks who are told that Count Gauntly is a professional working in the media industry. I think that is highly debatable. But, you know, this is my platform, like I said, and I want to make the most of it. And in a situation where there are young people coming to learn from me, I want to try to put my best face forward as well as my best foot and, you know, make something worthwhile for the visitors. Now, the first time that we did this, it was right after Count Gauntly had produced episode 50, our musical spooktacular, which up to that point had certainly been our most ambitious. It had been in the works for a long time. It required recruiting Ogrot to compose some original music. I tracked down just about every one of our regular players. We had the Glorious Leader and Thelonious and Freak Slice, several people who had not been on the program for a while and who I had to go pretty far afield to track down again. Some called in via Skype, some submitted their entries digitally after the fact, and this was already back in 2017. So, in a way, we've been on impulse power since then, in some regards. Production values have still climbed, but in certain situations, it has been harder to get people on board for productions. I had considered making episode 50 our last episode. I think if you go back and watch it, you will see it has a season and series finale vibe. I really tried to give it a good send-off just in case it was our last episode, maybe overall, but at least for a pretty long time. I anticipated a hiatus after episode 50. But right after I wrapped it and turned it in, my professor contacted me and he said, "Hey, you're doing this show. I want to bring all my students to a taping, so maybe they can be part of it." And so at the last minute, I had to do a turnaround and do episode 51, which was our first Professor Cosmo's college co-ed collaboration production. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. It meant a lot to me to be able to interact with these younger and maybe in some cases still idealistic, at the very least more idealistic people. And they provided a boost, a surge in my enthusiasm to produce the program. And it kind of jump-started things. It absolutely jump-started things. But even then, July episode was the lowest production value we've ever seen. I felt a little burned out. That seems like a contradiction in terms, how could you be fired up and burned out? I had to just do some soul searching. I knew that June episode 51 had given me motivation to make more Gauntly. But what would that Gauntly be? What still could be done with this form? What was it all going to be about? And so I took a whole month where I just was not around. There was 1 month where there was no show. And in the 8 years we've been doing the program, that was the only month there was no episode at all. It kind of threw off the number count. It made last 4th of July's episode number 75 instead of 76, which I'm kind of kicking myself over. But I came back in September with episode 53 just to get used to working in the studio again before episode 54 for our Roswell trip, which is finally up online now. If you haven't seen it, check it out. That was one of our more ambitious episodes. So, July has tended to be downtime ever since then. We actually did not have a Professor Cosmo's collaboration in 2018 because he assumed I actually had ended the show like I said I was going to do or trying to do. But I missed it after 2017. Working with that team gave me so much creative energy that I really jumped at the chance to have them back in June 2019. Now, like I said, was feeling that it had become difficult to bring people on the program by that point, gearing up for episode 74. So I really wanted to do everything in my power to make that a good one. Really call on everybody I knew, everybody I had formed connections with, to bring them on the show and really put forth a good face in this college collaboration episode. If you know the backstory, which I don't know who does, probably a very small number of people, but I pulled in some friends that I've made, friends that were pretty close to me, that I wanted to impress them just as much as I wanted to impress the students. And several months of planning went into bringing everyone together so that the college students could learn from my media professional friends who really do work in the industry in some capacity, and my industry friends could form connections with these up-and-coming undergrads who might be looking for jobs, and I could be, like Henry Kissinger, the bridge figure, okay? I could be a diplomat. I could be the one helping those connections form, and maybe it could possibly help me out too. At the very least, it could make me look a little better than I often feel. We've got about 10 minutes left now if we're going to make this a half-hour show, so we may want to move on to some other talking points. Let it suffice to say that July tends to be when I'm feeling burned out in the wake of a gotta impress these young people mode of thinking. And in as much as everything is still locked down to some degree, for once, the whole country is feeling what I, as Gauntly, feel pretty much 24/7 for the last 4 or so years at least, which is isolation, okay? Which is not interacting with friends, with the community at large, kind of being in my bunker, staring at screens, and that's how I reach out to the world. So this is Gauntly's world, in a sense. Welcome to it. I think it's worn on everybody to varying degrees. And I think some people are raring to, once the limitations are lifted, they're going to go back into the world and not be isolated anymore. And they'll wipe their brows and say, whew, that was rough. Living under those restrictions, not being able to see everybody, not being able to go out and do the things we want to do. Well, that's my life, okay? I am sure it's not very impressive to just show myself, fully bare myself, air my grievances, but a lot of people are doing that right now. Not just Gauntly, but all of public access comes from a very singular viewpoint, and that's good and that's bad. I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't have to please any sponsors, like I said. I can just be me. So, for what it's worth, for good or bad, this program is and always will be my viewpoint, writ large. Welcome to the output of my mind. It is a small platform, but it is mine. It will not be co-opted. But Count Gauntly's has always relied, as a production, on the contributions of volunteers, and these volunteers come from many different origins. Gauntly would not exist without the contributions of Black Americans, and Jewish Americans, and gay Americans. The show would not exist without your generous contributions of time and talent. And for that I say thank you. So there we are. We all have to soldier on together as Americans. We've all got to coexist. We've all got to move forward together or we don't move forward. That's my 2 cents regarding the current state of the Union. Prostate of the Union. Now, with these last 5 minutes, I want to give you a little bit lighter take, which I think is what Gauntly is known for. Gauntly, the character, tends to be an optimist, actually. And that's why I say I don't know if I'm actually Gauntly right now. But we are going forward. There will be more episodes. And in these last four-ish minutes, I want to give you a glimpse of what's ahead. First off, bullet point, this is episode 87. I think there is a good chance that episode 100 will be our real swan song. Okay? Now that is going to come about in, I think it is August of next year. So late summer next year. That means that the coming Halloween episode, Halloween 8, stands a very good chance of being our last Halloween episode. And I always try to go hard. If I go hard in the college collab episodes, Halloween is twofold of that. It is where I always try to try something new, try to work in some kind of new medium. We've done music videos, we've done homebrew video games, and I travel into the world to some horror landmark, try to work in interviews with people in the field, try to visit museums dedicated to the weird, to the horrific. We've been to Roswell, Transylvania, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, Salem, New Orleans. We've explored underneath the Bunnyman Bridge. I try to journey out and highlight an important place in horror history. So, for episode number, I believe it's going to be 90, our next Halloween episode, This is not set in stone yet, but I'm thinking it is going to be circus themed. Okay? We have not seen scary clowns yet. 8 years doing this, and I want to work in a circus vibe. That may mean that I'm visiting circus landmarks. I'm not 100% on that yet. Something like that. Performers, freak show performers. That's my goal. As far as the new medium I explore, I have started dabbling in stop motion animation. I've got little stop motion Gauntly here. Get a good glimpse of him. And his eyes are mobile. His mouth is interchangeable, so I'm hoping to make him speak. This is obviously a very time-consuming process, so I've gotten a jump now, and over the next 3 months, I will be producing a short animation for our Halloween episode, inspired somewhat by films like The Nightmare Before Christmas. You'll see he has an armature skeleton, and so he can be moved into any position, and his limbs will stay. I can bend him at the knee, like that, and walk him step by step. And that's going to be a time-consuming process, but I think it's going to be very visually rewarding. I think you'll find it interesting, at the very least, and it helps me to build some skills. Thanksgiving, we always eat something crazy. I have found a company that will mail you an entire alligator carcass. So I'm going to lay down a couple $100 to make that happen, and hopefully we will see a whole alligator complete with head on our dinner table by then. Hopefully back in the studio. I am looking forward to carting that in. As far as something else I'm hoping to have people cart in, I want to do something with the coffin dance meme, where the people in, I believe it's Ghana, dance with the coffin on their shoulders. This could be for Halloween, or it could be to send off 2020 in December. I think that could work as well. But I got to recruit for that, okay? 4 to 6 people it takes in these coffin dance videos. So if you're interested in holding up one corner of a coffin with your shoulder while we dance like this, give me a call, okay? Look me up in the credits, and let's make it happen. Because like I said, as singular of a vision as I like to pretend Count Gauntly's is, it relies on other people to make it happen. And I am indebted to you. It doesn't happen without you. Let's take a glimpse in these last couple seconds at the last few projects ahead in our future. Other food processes I'm interested in, I want to get a sausage grinder to feed some things in. I think that would have comical results. Wind it up in some stomach lining and just make some gruesome sausage. I can't claim that this idea is original. I got it from YouTube. But I think it could be very funny on a public access soundstage. Finally, I don't know what the credits for this episode are going to be, but another style of credits I'm interested in doing is something inspired by The Mandalorian. There's copyrighted property there, but I'll just name drop it. And I like the way that they have painted versions of the scenes from the episode dramatically presented with like a Western music with like a little bit of theremin mixed in. That's a cool vibe that I think is fittingly Gauntly. They've got their multi-million-dollar budgets, but having just still images, Ken Burnsing around while weird theremin cowboy music plays, Space Cowboy, is very up our alley and pretty easy to do in terms of editing. So that is coming your way soon. As is a little more Gauntly, as I stand here on my soapbox, shouting from my echo chamber, maybe reaching a couple people, but all the while using my platform as my platform, no one else's that will not be co-opted. So, if you've been listening, if you've been watching, I hope you have gotten something out of it. If not, I continue to shout into the void from my point of origin, from my point of view, as is my First Amendment right. I will always embrace it. I hope you embrace yours. Use it, or you lose it. Bye, guys, and as always, pleasant nightmares.
We gathered round the flames, different colors, one race. You could see the gaze, the face of hope beyond. One more fighting song, one more American song. We sang it late, sang it long. Battered and beaten, we fought on. It took so long, but our hearts beat as one. Just one beating strong.